Good evening and welcome to the Moving Home with Charlie weekly workshop with Charlie Lambden and guests. Live at 8 p.m. every Wednesday. This show is here to help all home movers of the UK be better prepared for dealing with the gauntlet that is trying to move home.
Helping make sure everyone has a home.
Whether you're buying, selling or both, it's a live show. So if you have a question about your move, pop it in the live chat. In the meantime, sit back, have a noisy slurp of your drink and enjoy the show.
Sorry, I can't resist it. Not tea tonight, it's Guinness tonight. I may have had the 2-for-1 cocktail deal at Pizza Express not long before this live stream. And it may affect the usual quality, the usual broadcast quality. Also, I'm not at home. I therefore don't have as reliable an internet connection as I would like, but I'm doing an audio recording of this. So if there are any problems with this, I will upload the audio recording to the podcast, which you can get on Spotify or Apple or anywhere you get your podcasts afterwards. Good evening, everybody. It's Wednesday, the weekly Wednesday workshop. And tonight, it's how to avoid how to avoid a bidding war when you're in a bidding war. You'll see what I mean by that. I've just had the most fascinating day with the estate agents that I'm working with, the first company, and I think there are going to be some more as well. Because when you see the results I'm about to put on screen, you'll see why there are more agents actually going, this looks pretty good. I think we should probably have a look and just check out what's happening here. Who have we got here this evening? Alistair, hi there. Leo Lease, hi. Ron Buck, Lee Hollands, David Ledbury, Lee Marsden, DAH8585Q, there's a username that rolls off the tongue. Spherical Hang, Yachek D. Welcome, everybody. Right. 30 seconds of background. When you let the housing market do its natural thing, houses sell faster for fair market value. When you let the housing market do its thing, houses sell faster for fair market value. And the reason that it's such a painful process for most people now is that when agents overvalue to get listings, which almost all of them do, they're not letting the market do its thing. So they're starting off by disrupting the natural market process. And the crux of the entire approach that I teach the estate agents who want to learn it from me is that you do not overvalue. In fact, you don't value at all. You create a market for the property that results in multiple buyers. Now, I've been doing this for 6 months with the agent that I've been working with, and the results, which I'm going to share with you on screen now, have been outstanding. But today, I was sitting in there discussing with their team about a situation they've got where they've got 10 competing buyers on one property. Now, that's 10 people offering. They've had more than that viewing it, but there are actually 10 people making offers on this property. When I started working with this agent, more than half of what they had on their books was sitting on the market, been there for months, no offers, no viewings, not selling. And the stuff that was under offer was dragging on forever, wasn't getting it to exchange, it was taking forever, and it was causing a real problem. So like more than half wasn't sold, and what was sold was taking forever and was falling through. It was a very, very different situation. Now, I'm going to share with you their current active property list without any identifying details, but here we go. So this is the list of current live properties, and this colored thing in the middle is the status. And what you can see there is all the stuff that says coming soon is where the sellers have instructed them to sell, and they are now in the pre-market phase, which is crucial to this process. They've got 2 properties currently on the market which do not yet have a deal agreed. They've got offers on both, but at the moment, and this is what I'm going to discuss in this video, the offer process is taking a very long time because the buyers aren't listening to what they're being told. And that's what I want to talk to you about in this video. All of the others are sale agreed, with the exception of that one that got to get withdrawn, where there was a leasehold with a complication and it was a problem and they're taking off, they're going to put it back on later, right? Either under offer or has exchanged and completed, right? And it's just in the completion process now, right? That's their current, this is one office. And look at that, every single one except for one that's going to get rectified and brought back to the market is completed or under offer or currently on the open market where they're fielding multiple offers or coming soon. And this is one office with a small team, so they are absolutely rushed off their feet. And the nice thing about it is that they're rushed off their feet doing stuff that's actually earning them money and getting their customers what they want. So they do not have, without one exception, any unhappy customers. They've got a lot of very happy sellers because every single one of these has gone for over the launch price. Why? Because they've successfully created a market and they've ended up with multiple viewings and multiple offers. So this estate agent's everyday working life now for this team is basically managing the viewings and the offers that are coming from them and discussing the offers with the seller and helping the seller choose which offer to go with. Right. The problem they are having, and I'm laughing because it's a problem I wasn't expecting, they weren't expecting, but is a really interesting problem, is that when they tell the buyers on the viewings, there are 17 viewings in this property, or we've already had 9 people make an offer on this property, the buyers aren't believing them, but they are telling the whole precise truth without any exaggeration. And the buyers aren't believing them because these buyers are out in the market looking at other stuff too. And there's no one else in this patch who's got this many viewings and this many offers happening, or properties selling this fast, because every single one of these has gone under offer in under a month, in under 28 days, every single one. And so a lot of buyers are coming on because you look at the values of some of these, right? Some of them are over £1 million. Some of them are nearly £2 million. And you think, well, that's going to take 6 months to sell. Not when you do it properly. There is a ready and waiting market for every single property in the land, right? You just have to come to the market properly and you will get your market for the property. But how do they solve the problem where the buyers who are inquiring about these properties and say, I want to view it, don't believe the results? And I've got some anecdotes here of what's happening with individual buyers, which are really sort of quite entertaining conundrums. Just checking. I'm going to make some more space on the screen there. Okay. So does anyone have any questions on this, by the way? Because this is literally a screen grab of a live spreadsheet that I've got open on another tab of the current state of this agent's stock. Okay. And by the way, for those of you wondering what B-pipe means, it means that's an offer accepted, but it's from a buyer who's not yet got their property sold. So it's not yet a proceedable deal. So it's agreed, but it's not in what they call the A-pipe, the main pipeline. All right. And for those of you wondering, say, hang on, Charlie, what are all these prices if you don't do a valuation? Well, the secret, the key, the magic in this process is coming to the market at precisely the right launch price first time. That is the secret, right? Precisely the right launch price, because it can be too high and it can be too low. So you've got to get it precisely right. for every individual property. And each property is unique and it's got different circumstances. And some of the circumstances include the seller's situation. Is there an onward chain? Is it a probate sale? Has probate been done? All of these things, right? They all affect the precise launch price. And that how that price is arrived at is a process that can in itself take 2 to 3 weeks. Okay. And that's what all those 9 properties that they're doing right now. They are in the pre-market process. And if they haven't yet got the precise price, these are just the sort of provisional working prices. So on one of these properties, I'm not going to say which one, but on one of these properties, it's taking longer to get an offer agreed because the bidders won't stop increasing their prices. And every time they say to a bidder, I'm sorry, your offer, you've been unsuccessful with your bid, some of the bidders are going, well, okay, I'm going to offer this much then. And the agent's frustrated because they're explaining to all of these buyers at the beginning, please offer. And of course, you know where this has come from, right? This is me telling them what to tell buyers when the buyers say, how much should we offer? First of all, as a buyer, never ask an agent that question. For reasons I'll explain in another video, right? But you cannot ask someone who is paid to represent the counterparty in this transaction to advise you on what you should bid, because they're going to say higher, they're going to say more, right? And what I'm teaching these agents to say is that they never tell a buyer how much to bid. Okay, you say, but what about the situation where, like this, you've already got bids and they're over asking price? Okay, well, these situations have to be handled delicately. And of course, what do you think when you hear an agent say to you, well, we've got a lot of interest in this property and we've already had 10 offers? Everyone's automatic assumption is, yeah, right, pull the other one. And fair enough, because with most agents, that is utter cobblers. But these guys have got a problem because they're telling the truth and they don't know how to get the buyers to take them seriously. So at the moment, and I'm going to read you the actual offer wording today because there are several things that all of these buyers have been getting wrong in this process. Got to make sure I've got it handy. Hang on. There it is. There it is. So what the agent is saying to the buyers is, we have had, let's say, 17 viewings on this property. And that is not a made-up number or an approximate number. I've told them, tell them the truth. If they're the first person to view it, say, you are the first person to view this property, but we have 6 other viewings or 10 other viewings or whatever it might be. We have them booked. A lot of these are happening as open house viewings where they open up on a Saturday and they have one person after another. It's not everyone going around the house at the same time. It's each buyer is getting a sort of 20-minute slot to go around the house. And on those days, again, the first buyer turns up at, say, 10 o'clock in the morning, and the agent's saying, yeah, we've got a full day of viewings booked today. There are 3 people an hour coming for the next 5 hours. There's 15 people coming today. And the buyers kind of look at them going, really? In this market? And the agent's saying, look, come back here at 3 o'clock. You'll see we're still here. Because their biggest challenge is buyers not believing them. And then when the buyers do view the property and decide that they like it, those people who do like it and want to make an offer will... This is where the psychology gets really interesting, because I heard them saying today, one of the ways in which you know a buyer is interested and is going to make an offer is when they start criticizing the property. Oh, well, there's a horrible thing across the street. Oh, well, it's next to this. Oh, well, but they say buyers only do that because they do want to make an offer, but they're worried that there's too much interest, or they're worried the price is going to be too high. So the buyers start trying to talk the property down in value to improve their chances of having their offer accepted. Now, if you are the only buyer, the only person making an offer, then perhaps it makes sense. But you've got to understand that these guys do this all day, every day, and so they know the signs. I saw an email from another buyer today saying, thank you so much for the viewing. Really enjoyed the viewing. And it was quite a long email, right? And it got to the bottom saying, Yeah, we do love the property, but I'm afraid the asking price is outside our reach. So thanks, but thanks anyway. Thanks for the viewing. Goodbye. And again, they said buyers only send those emails because they want to offer and they're trying to negotiate. So just remember, when you're dealing with an experienced estate agent, they have seen and they see all of these tactics and techniques and tricks and tips all day, every day. They see it all the time. And in a situation where you are one of many people interested in a property, don't do this thing that a lot of buyers do when they realize that, which is that they get cross with the agent. Well, we don't want to be in a bidding war. Sorry, we're just doing our job. Our job is to create a market for this property. We've done this job for our seller, and we didn't force anyone to come and view it. We didn't force anyone to be making offers on it. So you are automatically putting yourself at a disadvantage if you get shitty with an agent because they're doing their job properly. It is an unintelligent thing to do to direct your frustration at a good agent for doing their job well. Okay, because when they've got multiple buyers bidding on a property, it's not going to go in your favor when they're sitting down talking through the offers with the seller to say which one they're going to recommend. Not because they don't like that you've done that, but because they would probably rather go with a buyer who was down to earth enough to accept, okay, there's a lot of interest in this property. Fair enough. Done a good job. Not surprised. It's a nice property. And they don't sort of knee-jerk react, kick out of the agent and you estate agents, pumping the market up. No. We've actually priced this lower than the other agents, which is why there's so much interest. We're doing the opposite of what bad agents do. So don't get cross with us. So this is the shit they have to put up with on a daily basis. Okay, so don't express frustration at an agent that's doing their job well. It just hurts your chances of your offer being taken seriously, number one. Number two, and this is trickier because it is hard to know whether what the agent's telling you is true or not. And I do say disregard the guff, don't I? I tell you all, generally speaking, whatever an agent says about it, they may or may not be telling the truth, just disregard it. And number three, what I always tell you all is it doesn't matter whether you are the only bidder or one of 1,000 bidders, it shouldn't affect your bid. Because you should only make one bid, which is your maximum comfortable price. So the agents acting for the seller and we're trying to work out the wording here. We're trying to work out how to communicate to buyers in a way that they understand that it really isn't in your interests to make a low offer when there are multiple people offering. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of their time. It's not going to help you if you come down to the wire with one other buyer, right? It really doesn't make sense ever in this scenario where there are multiple people bidding to do anything other than make your maximum comfortable bid. And not just make the maximum comfortable bid, but make it in a way that makes your offer look more appealing than the others. And I will read the example offer I've got in a minute, because this is the story with this particular property. One of the buyers, this is funny because the buyer's brain has been twisted because the buyer is also a seller. And the buyer, this particular bidder, is also a seller of another property that doesn't need to be sold for this purchase, but they are selling. And explained to the agent that they were a very experienced property buyer and seller. Okay. And the agent said, we do have a lot of interest, so we recommend that you make sure you put in your best maximum comfortable bid right at the start. Please don't put in an opening offer and then raise it later, because there's so much interest. we haven't got time to do this. So this particular buyer puts their bid in and just puts in a number and says, this is my maximum, this is my best and final offer. Never use that phrase unless it's actually true, okay? And this is why I always say it's better to say, this is my first and final offer, or this is my only offer, okay? Because what's happened now is the first offer came in at below the launch price when they'd already been told that without giving any prices away, there were already offers at above launch price. So what happened is the buyer clearly just thought the agent is lying, put in an offer below launch price, and said it was their best and final offer. So immediately, without having to talk to the seller, the agent goes to the buyer and says, no, as I told you, we've already got offers above the launch price. So unfortunately, because that's what the bidder was told before they made the first offer, there are already existing offers above the launch price. And the bidder's reaction was annoyance and irritation, and okay, all right, okay. Here's my next offer, and put in another offer. And said, this really is my best and final offer. It's my best and final offer. Best and final offer. And yet again, the agent went back and said, I'm sorry, thank you for your revised increased offer. Taking you at your word that this is your best and final offer, I'm very sorry to let you know that you've been unsuccessful. Buyer now gets really cross and really angry. Again, the agent has done nothing wrong. The agent has told the truth from the beginning. And the second time round, and now the buyer says, tell me what I have to do to secure this property. To which the agent repeats what he's now said 3 times, which is make your highest comfortable offer. How much? I can't tell you that. And this is what I've taught. Never tell the bidders what they have to bid, because that is manipulating it and might force them to pay more than they're comfortable paying. And also, if you're not giving them numbers, then there's no chance of you being accused of manipulating them. Okay? Which is why, again, if you don't offer your maximum comfortable price, you're likely to lose the property, or you're more likely to lose the property if you are one of multiple bidders. It doesn't pay to try and save a few £1,000, or a few tens of thousands in this case, by putting in what you'd like to pay, but not what you would actually pay. Now, I'm not going to read you, with the relevant stuff redacted, this email that came in today, from this buyer, who, by the way, is also a seller. And I'm going to come on to this in a minute, because this is a really fascinating psychological discussion about why the buyer is wants this property, but also I'll come on to that in a minute. Anyway, so now the offer, and it's such a long, I mean, it goes on and on. It's a long email, right? But it is, dear so-and-so, thank you again for visiting me earlier. So the agent's been around to see the buyer, because the buyer's also going to be selling the property that they're in. I would like to raise my offer to ... for the property we've been discussing. Funding, bullet point, this amount from the sale of this property, owned out, and explains all the details of that property. Second bullet point, this amount readily available from personal savings following the sale of another property. Bullet point, as a further safeguard, blah, blah. So in other words, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, we've got the fucking money. Verification. Our agent for selling the other one is this one, and this is the person dealing with it. An email. Our conveyancing solicitor, we've already got appointed to these people here. This is their address. This is the name, the website. Position. We are in an exceptionally strong position. No chain. Mortgage free. Current residence. No survey required. That is a very punchy thing to include in an offer. We will not be dependent on a survey. Our offer is not subject to a survey. This is our offer without a survey. And bullet point number 4, ready to proceed immediately. And what the agent's done is said, please, in your actual final offer, please set out your full situation so that I can discuss it readily with the seller, because I cannot remember all the details when there are 10 people offering. And this person goes on to say, for context, basically story, we would ideally like to complete as soon as possible. Kindly ask to put this offer forward to the owners for their consideration, and we would appreciate a response within 24 hours. Right? Now, there is a buyer who has made now 3 offers within a short space of time, but is still trying to act as though they've got the upper hand. And the agent suspects that's still not their highest price. And that brings us on to another topic I want to discuss in another video about, that's I won't go into that now. Now, these situations, so this is all buyer situations. Now, all of the buyers are saying to the agent, how much do we need to offer? And I get that. That's a kind of natural question that a lot of buyers ask. But I would say that as a buyer, if you're asking that question, it means you haven't worked out what your maximum comfortable price is. And you should be working that out before you make your offer and then making your offer, okay? And not asking the agent. One of the other buyers on this property, this blew my mind today, arranged to meet up with the agent and offered a bribe. We'd like to do an arrangement with you personally for making sure that we get this house. And I said, oh my God. He said, even if I had been tempted, as I said to them, even if you were to offer me that, you are still £200,000 at least away from where everyone else is offering. Honestly, what goes on in some people's minds? Yes, it's true. There are agents who will accept those bribes. Not this agent, luckily, because their reputation is too good, and the agent turned it down out of hand. But there are buyers out there. I mean, people always think it's the agents who are dodgy. There are just as big a proportion of buyers and sellers who are as dodgy as the agents are, right? That blew my mind today. Don't punish an agent for doing their job well. And that's right. So the bidder, by the way, of the 10 people making offers, 4 of them made more than one offer. So 4 of them didn't listen to the truth when the agent was saying, please make your maximum comfortable offer because there are multiple people bidding. And I'm trying to work out with the agent how to go about demonstrating that they're speaking the truth without divulging who and what the other offers are. And it's an interesting point because, they were saying to me, well, if of those 10 offers, the top 3 offers are in a ballpark of a number starting with a this, can we say that? Well, and there's nothing to stop them saying that. And it's an interesting question. But I said, no, you can't, because that's going to influence. And what that might do is it might influence someone to overpay more than the maximum comfortable price. And then that increases the chances of the fall through. The buyers must determine their maximum comfortable price on their own. But it twists their brains because at this level, a lot of the buyers, most of the buyers, in fact, are also sellers. And the other conversation that made me really smile was how this buyer was saying to the agent, how on earth have you achieved this result? And the agent said, well, this is now what we do with all of our listings. And it's pretty much a similar situation with all the listings, with all the properties we're selling now. Well, how do you do that? Well, we don't give a valuation. Sure, what do you mean? That's ridiculous. You can't do that without valuation. You've asked the question, that's the answer. We don't give a valuation. We have a different process about how you bring the property to market. It almost always results in this situation where there are multiple viewings, multiple offers, and the property goes under offer very quickly. And as a buyer who had now made 3 offers, the buyer said, "That I just don't believe that." And the agent was like, you've literally just had to make your 3rd offer because of that. And you know that your 3rd offer is a significant amount above the asking price. So you are literally witnessing us delivering well above asking price within a couple of weeks of launch with multiple buyers. You're witnessing us do it. You're literally living proof that our process works. And this buyer, as a seller, is going, I can't. I want you to sell my house, but I can't. I have to have an asking price that I want. And it's an unresolved situation, and it's very, very interesting. It's very funny. But of course, this is what happens in a lot of people's heads, the cognitive dissonance, when you're looking at the same situation from 2 different sides. And this is actually what's at the heart of the problem in the property market. What buyers see and what sellers see are 2 different sides of the same coin. One is seeing heads, one is seeing tails. Never the twain shall meet unless a good agent actually brokers the deal. And it was just weird and funny for the agent to experience a buyer who really wants this it's because the house is absolutely unique. It is a complete one-off property, which is why there's so much interest in it. And they marketed it brilliantly, and they brought it to market brilliantly, and they've succeeded in creating a market. And this buyer wants it and is experiencing firsthand this effective method of selling, but then questioning that it works. Like, which part of your eyes don't you believe? Very, very funny. Anyway, what do we have? Do we have any questions here? Some good questions here, right? So there's Christopher Stocks. That's a good question. I'll come to that. All right, Sarah, this is a good question. Hi, Charlie. If there's no valuation, then what is the asking price? How is that marketing? So the reason there's no valuation is because a valuation is nothing more than a guess at what somebody might pay. And if you remember that that's what a valuation is, right? It is not what your property is worth. It is a guess at what a buyer might pay. It literally is nothing more than that. It might be a very educated guess by a very experienced person, but it is still nothing more than a guess. And the reason it's a guess is because they don't know what's in the mind of, they don't even know who the buyers might be, let alone what's in the mind of those buyers. And they don't know what the situation of the seller is, etc. So what they say is, we will bring your house to market in a way that is extremely likely to create multiple bidders. And they've now got, they've done enough times to prove that, look, it works. From the time at which a seller says, okay, I'll sign up to this process. Let's do it. Let's go. I will sell my house through you without a valuation. The time from that point to actually launching it publicly on the portals and agents' website and stuff can be 3 to 4 weeks, because part of what the agent does is get the conveyancer appointed, make sure that the sale pack is ready so that the property is exchange ready, because that creates more interest as well. That's part of creating a market, is when buyers see that a property is sale ready, the buyer's like, okay, this seller's not wasting time. This is a serious seller who wants to sell. As a buyer, I'm more interested in that. So having a property sale ready improves and increases the chances of proceedable buyers being interested. And the more of those you have, the more of a market you have. Okay, so that in itself can take a few weeks to get all the paperwork ready. During that process, they've got to arrange the photographs, arrange the floor plan, and they're also now doing a pre-sale survey. And I put an example of one of the most recent pre-sale surveys up on X, on YouTube as a post, and on LinkedIn. I redacted all the personal stuff and put it up there to see, so that to get your feedback on what you think of a pre-sale survey. It's not the same as a full survey. The purpose of the pre-sale survey is to demonstrate seriousness, to demonstrate transparency, and that also to make sure for the agent and the seller's sake that there are no obvious nasty surprises that might catch them out later. Okay. Now, to answer your question, Sarah, about what is the asking price, the next thing they do, once they've got the pre-sale survey and this is all, the photographs are being done, everything else, one of the things that this process is yielding for this agent is a large number of disappointed buyers. And those disappointed buyers who've missed out on a property they were bidding on, who weren't, because they weren't ready, they didn't have their proof of funds, they didn't have their mortgage in principle, they didn't have their property on the market, all these things, are now so disappointed to have missed out on a property that they're now getting themselves at like, okay, right, my property's on the market, here's my proof of funds, I'm ready. I'm not going to miss another one. I am now ready. And one of the things the agent is doing is hand picking the buyers that they know are really disappointed about one they've missed, who they think would like this new property, and taking them around to see it before it comes to the market without any mention of a price. Okay, so they're effectively doing pre-market. They're creating a pre-market, if you like, with qualified proceedable buyers to see what the reaction is, to help inform what they do eventually decide to be the launch price. And it's only one part of the process, but it's a really interesting part. And occasionally, it's only happened once for them so far. Occasionally, that pre-market viewings process results in a sale. Okay, there was one property where they showed it to 4 such disappointed buyers from other properties. 2 of them made offers before it went to the market, and the seller went sold to one of those. Okay, now they don't expect that to happen, but it can. Graham Lysett, that's a really good question, and I will come and answer that question in a minute. About surely if there are multiple offers, it's better for everyone to have transparency and auction style bidding to reach the true market value. I will come, that is a good point, something that we actually discussed today. I'll come and answer that. So those pre-market viewings go a long way to informing, and because agents sometimes can't see the wood for the trees. And in the early stages of this process, one of the properties they brought to market, they got wrong. They got loads of viewings, 0 offers. And that was a real wake-up call and a lesson. They did sell that place, but it was, they were like, okay, all right, we've got to be more careful about this. And when they show it to people, the feedback they get from those buyers is always something that they wouldn't have thought of themselves. So it's really giving the agent and the seller great advance intel on the market's likely reaction to the property and to see what the strengths and the weaknesses might be. Then, of course, they will go to and look for comparisons. What is the most recent sale price of the most comparable property locally, if there is? What's on the market that would compare with it locally? What's on the market that isn't sold? How long has that been unsold for? What's on the market that has sold? What was that price? And to make sure that the price they come at makes this new listing look like better value than any of the other potential competing properties. Okay. It's not a question of just a low asking price, right? That's clumsy, especially when you're dealing at this level of the market where sometimes there are fewer properties and it's much, much harder to pinpoint, right? And this is what I love about this process is all the other agents are going, oh, well, we think it's 1.2. Oh, well, we think it's 1.4 million. And they're fucking making it up. They're just making it up. They do not know. It's absolute guesswork. And they've had one situation where with a property where the seller decided to go with another agent because the other agent gave this really high valuation, and that agent has completely shat the bed with this property. And it's also now going to make it harder to sell, but we'll come, that's a separate point, right? So I have drilled into the head of these agents, right, that they must not and cannot get that launch price wrong. And by the way, since they've been doing this, out of 30 odd instructions they've done, they've only had to do one price reduction. And that was on a small flat, a small 1 or 2 bed flat, where there was a problem that they had overlooked and failed to see. They had to do one price reduction that then did sell that, but that's the only one. And this approach basically almost always guarantees price reductions are not necessary. Now, yeah, someone else saying offer transparency really needed in this process. Now, I'm going to come on and explain to you why it's not necessarily a good idea. Codename Coliber, yeah, that's a good question. I will answer that question. This is fascinating because most of the viewers on my channel are buyers. A lot of you are sellers as well. Okay, good question, Optimus J. Great questions coming here. Okay, good question. Spherical hang, I'll come to that. Yes, codename Coliber says, this method sounds frustrating and stressful as a buyer, and you wonder why people dislike estate agents or try and bribe them. As a buyer, so the agent is not there to serve buyers. It's really important that buyers understand that. The agent is retained and paid by the seller, and the agent's task and job that they are hired to do is to discover the market, to create a market for the property. When they do their job well, of course it's disappointing for every buyer that misses out, but you cannot blame the agent. If you want to go and buy a property at below market value, go to all the shit agents that have overpriced stuff and they're getting no viewings. Yeah, do that. But you've got to remember, right? All of you who are first-time buyers, one day you will be a seller. And when you are a seller, I promise you, you will want an agent who does this because you'd be bonkers not to. Okay? You know, when you go to an auction, do you get angry that other people are bidding? Oh, God, other people are bidding. Oh, I hate the auction house. How dare you create a market for this thing I want? You know, it's not fair to dislike the estate agents for being good. Think about how ridiculous that statement is. No wonder people dislike agents. What, even the good ones? Yachek D, that's a good question as well. What are some signs of unrealistic sellers? The one sign of unrealistic sellers that I tell these guys to avoid and walk away from and decline the opportunity to work for is sellers who say, I've got a price in my head that I want. Like, no, you can't have that. You've got to forget that. And if they think that a seller is attached to an unrealistic figure, they will not take them on because this agent is adopting this strategy so that it can show a near perfect set of results almost every time. And so they don't want to take on sellers who might affect those results because those results will be impossible for other agents to argue against. And this agent is going to be able to say in their local market, nobody matches these results. Nobody sells this fast, gets this many viewings, gets this many offers, and has this few fall throughs. And by the way, on that list so far, 0 fall throughs, 0. Imagine as a seller and as a buyer, how refreshing that is. So there will be fall throughs, of course. And sometimes a buyer will pull out. But the thing is, the way this process works, when a buyer pulls out, there's always another buyer to step straight in because they've always got more than one person interested in the property. And so again, as a seller, it's nice to know that, okay, if this buyer does pull out, I know you've got other buyers lined up. Right. Okay, let's take some of these questions. Okay, I'm going to start with this one. Tim Treefrog says, the problem is agents lie about how many buyers are interested. Yes, but almost all agents lie about that. It's not true to say all of them do. This agent, by the way, was as guilty of that as any other agent before I started working with them. They were overvaluing to get listings and then having to try and pretend and create that there was interest in this property to try and get bids that the seller might accept. Okay. But when you bring a property to market properly, there's no more requirement to make shit up. Okay. And actually, one of the things that these guys are telling me today is that in terms of their work-life balance and mental health, it's transformational for them, because rather than dreading every phone call because, oh God, we had to overvalue to get that seller, and oh God, we're having to bullshit this buyer to pretend there's every single phone call is one they're happy to make now. They don't enjoy turning buyers down because they want to sell they don't want to piss the buyers off, because if they've got a buyer who's offering and proceedable, that's a real asset to have in their books, so that when they talk to another seller tomorrow, they can say, I've got this buyer. They've just lost out on that house. It was just like yours. So there's no enjoyment from these agents of seeing buyers losing out. None whatsoever. Right. Okay. Christopher Stocks asks, but how do we decide what we are supposed to price our houses at, especially when agents are still talking about offers in the region of? I'm just going to move that up there so that you can just change the wallpaper for a bit. How do we decide what we're supposed to price our houses at? Now, I'm not sure how long ago you typed that question out, Christopher, but I think I've explained that. The process of determining the exact launch price is delicate and careful and requires knowledge and experience, which is why any agent that plucks a figure out of the air when they first come around to your house is making it up, guessing. And this is why no agent should just pluck a figure out of the air on the day, because it's impossible to be that confident about a price. Okay, that's one of the reasons. There's a list of reasons why these agents will not give a price or a valuation on the day. But one of them is because they don't know what to launch it at, because that process of determining what to launch it at takes a while. They need to do the pre-market viewings. They need to see what the reaction from that is. They need to do the research on the other properties. I mean, they go to great lengths because they're now getting very good fees, right? They've now got sellers who are not arguing about 2% plus VAT fees. Like, those results, yeah, you're going to get me under offer in 28 days and exchange within 70 days. I'll pay 2% plus VAT for that. That's literally what's happening now. The sellers, they're telling me that they've never experienced such a lack of sellers trying to negotiate on fee, which just proves the point that when you can demonstrate value for money and demonstrate superior quality product or service, people are willing to pay for it. And not least because they're succeeding, ignoring whatever the launch price is. Multiple bids means you've discovered the market, properly discovered the market. So, Krista, that's how you decide it, right? Deciding what price you launch your house at is part of the process that takes 2 to 4 weeks, depending. Graham Lyson says, I've never understood the secrecy at other/multiple offers. Surely, if there are multiple offers, it's better for everyone to have transparency and auction-style bidding to reach the true market value. Right. There are two completely separate parts to answer this question. First of all, the large majority of the reason for the secrecy is because there isn't other interest and there aren't other offers, and the agents are talking bollocks to try and get you to bid up, right? That is, in most cases, that is the reason for the secrecy, because there are no other offers and there's no other interest, right? If you're viewing a house that's been on the market for 3 months or longer, they haven't got enough interest. Unless they've just dropped the price, that might change things. But is it better to have transparency like an auction? Okay. If we were auctioning artifacts for charity, yes. If we were auctioning stuff on eBay, yes. The problem with, and also if you're selling a property at auction, then yes. But in the open market, so on the private treaty sale in the open market like this, the problem is that there's such a long way to go, and there's such a lot that can happen between the offers being made and the exchange, that when you have a transparent bidding process, it usually ends up with at least one person, if not more, overpaying. Have you ever been in that awkward situation where you end up bidding, like, oh, I want it, I just want it, I just want it, I just want it? Now, when you overpay at a charity auction, it's annoyingly expensive, but it's not life-changing. When you overpay for a property or overbid for a property, that increases the chance of the sale failing and the buyer pulling out. Okay, nobody wants that. The agent doesn't want that, the seller doesn't want that, and the buyer doesn't want that either. It's a waste of everyone's time and money. Okay, so when you have, and this is something I really do understand and know about, right? When you do, if you were to have transparency and say what the numbers are, first of all, you got the problem of the buyer doesn't believe the agent, right? Oh yeah, we got an offer of this amount of money. Most buyers, I mean, you shouldn't believe an agent, right? But secondly, even if you did give that price, because there's so much emotion in this process, and you got 10 people who fall in love with one house, only one of them's going to get it, right? 9 of them are going to be disappointed. People get carried away and bid with emotion. I love the house. I picture myself in this house. I want to live in this house. So I'm going to bring my family up, etc., etc. Okay. And so it is natural when an agent's done this job well like this for people to overpay and overbid. And it results, it's what we call a flaky offer, and the offer then gets withdrawn a few days later. Okay. And it's damaging to the process. And secondly, and this is my reasoning and why I'm telling this agent, do not tell them what they need to bid. Okay, is because the agent acts for the seller and should not be offering any advice to the buyer. And giving a number is effectively saying, I advise you to offer this price, when the agent doesn't know what your financial circumstances are. And so again, you've got the situation where a buyer could end up overpaying. And I am teaching these agents, and all the other agents are going to be joining this process, to never say anything that could manipulate or inflate a buyer's bid. Now, I know that's what the rest of the industry does, and that's what's wrong with the fucking industry, is that the whole of the rest of the industry is constantly trying to pump, higher. You know, hey, mortgage broker, how much money they got? You've seen their bank statements. Tell me, come on, how high can we get them? How high can we get them? Fuck it if we're making them overpay. Their problem. Caveat emptor, buyer beware. That is exactly what's wrong with this market, is how agents are trying, that they don't care if it's making the buyer overpay. And in my mind, fair market value is the maximum comfortable price that's reached with people bidding against each other. Could an agent in this scenario manipulate those buyers into bidding even more? Yes, they could. Yes, they could. And some do. Should they? I don't think they should, no. I think that when multiple bids reach their natural peak without transparency of numbers, so that the bidders, it's blind bidding, right? That is fair market value for the property. And there'll be agents watching this going, Charlie, that's ridiculous. Our job is to get the seller the highest price no matter what. I think that's a step too far. Because if you have genuinely had multiple bids from multiple proceedable buyers, and those bids have concluded at a price, you've done your job as an agent of discovering the market value for that property. Your job is not to extort and manipulate more money. There are agents that can do that, and there are agents that do that. Fine. And when you're dealing in the millions, okay, people in that part of the world, yeah, they really should know better than to be that easily manipulated. But for at the everyday level of the housing market, where people are up against it, financially stretched, and got to move home, no, it doesn't serve anyone. It doesn't serve society as a whole, right? to be artificially inflating those prices. So fair market value is the highest bid that's reached in a blind bidding scenario, okay, where no one's offered more than their maximum comfortable price. Fair market value, take it. That's my view. That's what I'm teaching. So does that answer the question? It's a very long answer to your question, Graham. Reviewer says the same. Offer transparency really needed in this process. The EA shouldn't be the only party who knows the offers. Again, the transparency shouldn't change what your maximum comfortable price is. So why does it make a difference? You shouldn't ever offer more or less than your maximum comfortable price when you're bidding on a home. If you're an investor or a developer, it's different. A landlord, whatever, that's different. But when you are a home buyer buying a home, you should never offer more or less than your maximum comfortable price. And I say this till I'm blue in the face, and 9 out of 10 of you don't listen to me. And then you kick yourself because you miss out on the property that you loved. It's free advice. You monkeys, don't listen to it. Codename says, why not just auction the fucking house off instead? Buyers feel manipulated too often by estate agents. So the reason to not just auction it is because at auction, you're always getting a lower price because you're taking it to a much smaller market of usually cash-only buyers. All right? That's why. If you take it to an auction, you're going to be getting it for, it's going to be selling for less money than you'll get on the open market. Buyers feel manipulated often by estate agents. Yes, that's true. They do. And that is exactly why what I'm teaching these agents is don't manipulate the buyers. Tell them the truth. This is how many viewings there have been. This is how many offers that have been made. We can't tell you how much because we don't want to influence how much you offer. You offer your maximum comfortable price, please. And by the way, one of the things that I'm working on with Best Agent is I want to create a platform, a bidding platform that facilitates this process so that the buyers can see that there are other buyers, right? There'd be like a live dashboard. It doesn't show the amounts, but it anonymously represents the people making the bids, and it signifies when they made a bid and whether the bid was successful or not when it was made. So effectively, without any numbers, you can see that there is genuinely a market. You're up against 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 other people. And I'm just right now in the process of formulating the spec for that function to solve this problem, right? To solve the problem of buyers not knowing if they can trust the agent or not. And the whole idea here is that agents who are doing a good job and are being transparent will want to use this facility because it's going to help them, because the buyers are going to feel more comfortable with bid because they're not being manipulated. Optimus J asks a good question. What happens if, for argument's sake, 3 or 4 buyers offer the same amount and are all proceedable? What happens then? So in that scenario, you're then going to be looking at their timeframes. They won't all have an identical timeframe, right? What effectively happens then is that the agent will make an assessment of how likely they think you are to go through to completion and not pull out. And remember that first-time buyers pull out of so many deals, okay? So let's just say that there are 4 first-time buyers and they all offer the same amount and they've all got the same deposit and they've all got a mortgage in principle. So the financials are identical. Let's just assume that for the purpose of asking this question, the financials are identical. They're then going to look at the reasons for buying that property. Now, let me give you an example. If someone says, we want to live in that street so that I'm walking distance from my elderly, unwell parents, that's a highly compelling reason, okay? If someone else hasn't got a compelling reason, well, it's all we can find in our budget. Yeah, that's not going to, if you have demonstrated that you are committed to this property and this is worth putting in your offer, this is our best offer, but the reasons we want this property so much are A, B, C, D, E. That will help you, okay? So it'll come down to who is the least likely to pull out. And that'll be in the agent's assessment. They'll say to the, but sometimes it'll be the seller choosing. And the seller might go, which ones did I like the most? If the seller happened to have met the buyers when they came around and viewed. It might, I mean, sometimes I know that in real life, sometimes sellers have said, oh, we chose those buyers because they've got a young family. And we love the idea of having a family growing up in our house. That can be a reason. So I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying that's what happens in the scenario that you described. But rarely would you have 3 or 4 buyers with identical financial situations. So it doesn't happen very often. Spherical Hang says, I see Carrington's use guide price. By the way, this is who these guys are, right? Carrington's the agent I'm working with in Kingston. I see Carrington's use guide price on their website. Why use this instead of offers over? Good question. Offers over is an overused tool that buyers don't trust. And actually, what I think they should say is not put guide or offers or anything. Just put the price. Just put price. But the guide price, their reason for using it is because they're kind of implying that that's not a fixed price. Does that make sense? Right. Who else other questions have we got here? Dr. Benny Boom Bat says, should cash buyers always buy it from auction? I mean, if you're buying a home and you only buy from auction, then you're going to be severely limiting your choices. So Pharaoh 3D says transparency means you don't know you lost fairly. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Because in the situations like with Connells, when you lose out unfairly, in other words, you've offered more than someone else, but they're taking a mortgage from Connells, so their offer gets accepted and yours doesn't. Yeah, you're right. Transparency would mean that you knew you lost fairly, and I agree with that. That's a really interesting point I hadn't thought of that I will remember. Spherical Hang, only use guide price if the launch price has been really carefully picked to get maximum number of viewers around. Because remember, if they haven't come through the front door, they're not in the market for your house, right? Creating a market for a house you're selling means people through the door within a close amount of time. Sarah Sutton says, displayed bids and offers accepted equals no need for ONS fluff revised data. Rightmove dies. Yes, exactly. And part of what we're doing here is that Best Agent is going to be recording and publishing exchange prices as they happen. We're also going to be, when we've got enough data, recording the gap between offer and asking prices, that kind of stuff, times on market, all that kind of really, really valuable market data. And you're right, we won't need any more of this crap from the ONS. As Zed says, question, do they qualify the buyers before allowing them to bid to confirm they're proceedable financially qualified? Absolutely. They are, and far more rigorously than you might think, because launching the properties at such carefully chosen launch prices means that they're getting such large numbers of inquiries that they don't actually have time to show 30 or 40 people around the property. And if you've got half of those people who are very well prepared, everything lined up, and you've got another half who haven't got everything prepared, then there's another half, they're just not going to get to view it. And this is why I always say, be prepared as a buyer. If you're a buyer and you haven't watched it, go and watch my video, 10 Golden Rules of Home Buying. Charlie's 10 Golden Rules of Home Buying. And by the way, those videos are quite old now. I think I did them before Christmas, about 8 months old. And both of those videos are still getting over 100 views every single day, which makes me really, really happy. About 3,000 of you a month watching each of those 2 videos, the 10 Golden Rules for Home Sellers, 10 Golden Rules for Buyers. That makes me really happy because no one's watching those for fun, I promise you. um, ba, 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 ba. Okay, Yachik D says, my bid on a house was rejected with the following message. I can confirm that our client remains keen to secure a sale, and if you are able to increase your offer, I am confident we can reach an agreement. What does it mean? What would you do in my place? You know what I'm going to say. Okay, first question, Yachik. Did you offer your maximum comfortable price above which you will not go? I'd like a truthful answer to that first, please. Yes or no? Hi, Vince. Hope you're well. Nice to see you. Hi there. Come on, Yachik. Give me a straight answer. Did you give your maximum comfortable price? Because this affects my answer to your question. All right. I'll come back to it when I've had an answer to that. Clement Moraski says, do new build listed asking prices get inflated for reassuring investors in the company project? Or is building so unprofitable right now that they genuinely can't compete with old stock? I can't speak. They're all slightly different, but new build listed asking prices are always at the highest they can get away with, for a long list of reasons. One is because a lot of buyers come along and go, how much is it? Oh, is that much I have to pay? Okay, we'll pay that much then, please. And so they do sell to naive, foolish buyers who think that there is no negotiation to be had. And sadly, there are a lot of those buyers still out there. Okay, so when they can, they will sell to the naive buyers who will just overpay. The second reason is that even if they then do a negotiation and knock the price down, they don't publish those reductions because they still want the chance to sell for the top list price, so to speak. And yeah, thirdly, they have got investors to answer to. Okay, Yachik. Yes, it was your maximum comfortable price, and you walked away. Okay, thank you for the answer. Let's just go back and I'm going to answer your question. This is a very important question. So your bid was rejected with the following message. So this is the agent, I'm assuming, saying, I can confirm that our client remains keen to secure a sale. And if you are able to increase your offer, I'm confident we can reach an agreement. Right. My interpretation of that message is not that you should walk away. It's that actually you are in quite a strong bargaining position, because my interpretation is they don't have any other offers. They don't want you to lose you and walk away, which is why they're saying, I am confident we can reach an agreement. Okay. And then when an agent says, I'm confident we can reach an agreement, it's like them saying, please don't go away, don't go away, don't go away. You're the only offer we've got. You're the only chance we've got of getting a fee from selling this house. We don't want to scare you off. And a lot of buyers will come back, will see that message and go back and increase their offer. And that's why I just do it, because most buyers will increase their offer, because most buyers don't offer their first and final offer first time. So what I would do is I would acknowledge that message, and I wouldn't walk away. If you really want the house, and I'm assuming that you do, I wouldn't walk away. I would say, thank you for your email. I understand what you're saying. However, as per my offer, I'm unable to increase it any further than this. This is my maximum comfortable, first and final, one and only offer. And if it's not accepted, I will continue my search elsewhere. I do hope your clients will reconsider. That's what I would do. Yeah, Yachik, people are asking, what was the asking price? What was the offer price? Be good to know, or give us a percentage or something. More questions here. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you've just said the estate agent called you the following week and asked whether you'd like to change your offer. You said no. That means you're the only offer in town. Let them know. Just say, look, I do like the property, and if you accept my offer, I'll proceed really quickly, but I can't pay more than that. And you can back it up by saying, and unless you've got anyone else offering more than me, then I'm offering you fair market value. Allegra 86 says, question. A house we like went on the market for 1.1 million, sold a week after, and bounced back after 2 weeks. There's an example of what I'm talking about, right? Comes on the market, even just two people bidding against each other, bids up, and then the bidder gets buyer's remorse and pulls out within a week or two. Okay, it was on in May. Since then, no offers. We offered 1 million, but the seller refuses since they already sold it for 1.1. Yeah, this is a very, very. Did the seller say that, or did the agent say that, or did the agent say the seller said that? That is guff that you should disregard, and you should respond to that, Allegra, with, okay, you go on to say how to approach this seller. It's been on the market for 3 months, no other offers over ours. We are cash and mortgage buyer. You go back and you simply say, if our understanding is correct, we're the only offer. And if there are no other offers for more than us, then we are the best offer at the moment. And this is the maximum price we're comfortable to pay. And if you can't accept it, we understand and we'll keep looking elsewhere. Just calmly. So what I'm trying to say is acknowledge the seller's rejection, acknowledge it, make them feel heard. Double down and say, I can't offer more than this because it's the maximum price we're prepared to pay for that property in our circumstances. You don't have to divulge your circumstances. You do to qualify yourself, but you just say, in our situation, that's the maximum we're willing to offer. And reiterate the fact, assuming that it's true, that, and if you are able to accept our offer, we can move very, very quickly. In other words, tempt them if you can. Oh, here we are. Cobblers, Charlie, says Anthony Keeley. What? Cobblers what? How am I supposed to respond to that? I want to know what you disagree with. Tell me. Come on. Yachik says, I used your template. Cool. Asking price 500, offered price 420. Well, based on the reaction from the agent, the fact that they called you back a week later as well, you're probably the best offer. And yet again, that property is about 20% too much. Okay, Yachik says that, by the way, they found a buyer on the house, but it fell through. Yeah. See, it's not finding a buyer that falls through isn't finding a buyer. It's they agreed a deal, but it fell through. I'm splitting hairs here, but when the house came back to the market, the seller didn't lower the asking price. The house has been on the market for 6 months. I'm playing the waiting game now, but prepared that it won't happen. Yeah, that's all you can do. I want to know what the cobblers are, Anthony. Come on. An hour and 12 minutes. I had no idea I'd been going that long. Okay, guys, I would like to, did you enjoy this video? Was it helpful? Was it useful? Was it a good weekly workshop? Was it valuable? Did you learn stuff? Because that's the whole point of it. And guys, remember, if you are a buyer, your enemy is not the agent and not the seller. It's the other buyers, okay? Don't lose sight of the fact that your biggest challenge to getting the house is not the seller, it's not the agent, it's the other buyers. And the only way that you can avoid a bidding war without bidding more is to have your conveyance lined up, your proof of deposit funds, your mortgage and principal, and your willingness to order your property search pack immediately the offer is accepted, right? If you haven't got an independent whole of market mortgage broker you trust, talk to my guys here, mhwc.co.uk/mortgage. Don't ignore my advice, because if you do, someone else will get the home and you won't. And if you want my take on what's happening in the market, make sure you get my newsletter, mhwc.co.uk/newsletter. Comes out every Friday morning in conjunction with a video, but I always put in the newsletter my thought for the week in the newsletter. And this week's is going to be juicy with everything that's happening with Rachel Reeves and the threat of property taxes, that kind of stuff. And next Wednesday at 8 p.m. is I've got Simon David, who is the boss of Thomas Legal, one of my conveyancing partners. He's going to be back on here to answer. So haven't done that for quite a long time. Always good fun. So if you want to find out how to get your dodgy Bitcoin authorized to buy a house, you won't thank me for saying that. You can ask him. I don't know what he's going to say. If you're having any conveyancing challenges, issues, come along and ask. Conveyancing is massively important. You want to ask about how conveyancing quotes are done. You want to ask about the process. Anything you want to know about conveyancing, you're going to have the founder and boss of one of the company's most successful and highest award-winning conveyancing firms at your disposal on my channel, live to take your questions, 8 p.m. next Wednesday. Don't miss it if you have any questions about conveyancing. Marchin, thank you. Amber, thank you. Jack May, thumbs up, thank you. Awesome. Chanson Papillon, thank you. Wicked. Lovely. Really love it, guys. Always fun. Stay well, be good. Don't overpay. Don't overprice. Disregard the guff. And if you're an agent watching this and you're curious about what I've shown in this video, get in touch with me if you're serious, because I'm going to be talking to some agents about a very limited offer for spreading this process out to a few more agents around the country. If you like the idea of selling everything you list in 28 days at 2% fees, you know who to talk to. Thanks, guys. Have a fantastic one.